Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Kev's Movie Corner. I am Kev, and this week we are talking about the movie Shane. This film was released in 1953. IMDb little snippet here says an ex-gunfighter defends homesteaders in 1989 Wyoming. Whew, man, Wyoming? Anyway, this stars Alan Ladd, Jean Arthur, and Van Heflin, I believe is how you say his name. This movie was it's a western, based in I don't know when it's actually supposed to be based in 1800s, 1889. And it's a pretty good movie. I'm not a huge western person, but this one was actually better than some of them I've seen or some of them I have seen in the past. So this starts with Shane, who is the aforementioned gunslinger, riding onto the land of Joe Starrett and Marian Starrett and their son Joey. And he rides in, they don't know who he is, and this comes as another man in the area, Rufus Riker, is trying to take over all this land. He's a cattle rancher, and he's trying to take over all the homes and all the land that people have laid claim to in the Wyoming territory. And he's trying to run them out by force, because he's just he's kind of a terrible human being. So he's cutting down their fences, running his cattle through their crops, and just doing a bunch of shady things to try to force them out or make them want to leave, basically. And Shane ends up he was just traveling through, but he ends up staying with the Starretts, Starrett family, and helping them work their little farm there. They go into town a couple times, and there are a couple face-offs with Riker. And there's some troubles between them. Eventually, a bunch of these homesteaders are having the same issue with him. He's trying to push them all out. They kind of get together and have a couple meetings where they talk about what they're going to do about the issue. Some of them want to leave, some of them want to stay. They go into town at one point, and Shane, played by Alan Ladd, gets into a fight with one of Riker's men, and a couple of and they kind of get into this big fight at a bar. And that kind of pushes things a little farther. Riker goes out and hires a quick draw shooter from Cheyenne, Wyoming, and brings him out there to kind of deal with them. But he's says that he wants to make sure that it looks legit instead of just, murdering people for no reason, because he doesn't want to go to prison, which, they talk about how there's no law around here. The closest law enforcement is a three-day ride, so they're kind of all on their own. These homesteaders are kind of fighting against this man all on their own. One of them ends up getting coaxed into a battle with this new black hat gunslinger, and ends up getting killed. And that kind of pushes the rest of them. A couple of them again want to leave even more now. The other ones are still want to stand up and fight, and it becomes a a place of contention between Shane and Joe Starrett, because Joe feels like he needs to stand up for his family, but Shane knows that this is not going to end well for anybody that goes in there. So they actually, even though they've been working together and to kind of become friends, they actually get into a fist fight to keep Joe from going to this battle, because his wife obviously doesn't want him to go because she's afraid he'll be killed. And Shane ends up going instead. And Shane, being a gunslinger himself, ends up killing all of Riker's men who are still working with him. There's a couple that have left by this point because of things going too far, but ends up killing Riker and his quick shooter and another his brother, actually. And that's kind of where the movie ends. Shane rides off into the distance with Starrett's son, calling for him and saying that he's sorry, that he wishes he would stay. And Shane makes the point, like, well, I tried to stay. It's not for me. You can't run away from who you are. So, yeah, it's a little under 2 hours. I will say, last week we watched Midnight Cowboy. These two are about the same amount of time. They're about the same time. I liked this one more. I thought it was more interesting. I enjoyed the story a little bit better. I enjoyed the filming a little bit better. This one, I would probably go back and watch it again. Don't plan to anytime soon, but this one I could actually see myself going back and watching again. This movie is based off of a novel by the same name from 1949. These last few movies have been based off novels, and they come out in quick succession, which is interesting. Excuse me. They've come out in quick succession, like right after the book was released, which is interesting. Now, this movie, a couple of interesting facts from this. There was actually a mistake made when Shane first rides, or when Shane is riding down a hill at one point in the beginning of the movie. You can actually see a highway, it says in the background. I wasn't paying attention to that, so I didn't notice that, but it says that you can, and I'm not going to deny that. And then, apparently, this movie was intended to be a B picture, so a kind of a secondhand, like, we don't care about this movie. When Paramount released it in the 50s, its budget had been blown out of proportion because George Stevens, who was directing and producing it, had shot so much film that they finished filming in October of 51. It took them a year and a half to edit it down and get it almost 2 years to get it edited down and released. Which is crazy. The Paramount was so worried about that, apparently, that they talked to Howard Hughes about taking it on, and he declined until later when he saw a rough cut and offered to buy it from them on the spot, which made them rethink the idea of making it a B picture. They actually turned it into one of their flagship movie of the year, one of their flagship movies, and it did well. It made $9 million at the box office, which I know isn't a lot, but the budget was only $1.5 million. So it easily, even as an inflated budget, being a $1.5 million budget is insane, because I know that's $1.5 million in the 50s, but nowadays it seems like movies cost $150 million or $300 million or whatever to make. So it's a pretty crazy thing. This, again, yeah, I would say this is something that I would recommend watching. especially if you like westerns. And if you haven't seen it, it's a pretty good movie. It's got a good cast. It's filmed beautifully. It's very picturesque. Kind of like when I talked about a couple weeks ago, the Bridge over Uruguay. It almost doesn't look like it was filmed that long ago. In my opinion, it almost looks like it's more recently done than that. But I think that's about all I've got for you guys this week. Next week, we're watching It Happened One Night from 1934. So if you want to hear about that, watch that with me. We'll talk about it next week. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and I'll talk to you then.